FPL is back, and obviously I've made an FPL team, so let's go take a look at it. Disclaimer, I am not an expert, this is just my opinion. Now, as you can tell by the title, I am going without Haaland for now. I'm not fully opposed against Haaland just yet, but as of right now I feel like the best way forward is to go without him. But, you know, FOMO, fear of missing out, is very risky to go without him. I could change my mind. I'll talk about it more after I've talked about my team, you know, the pros and cons of owning Haaland, and as to why I'm right now not thinking of going with Haaland. So let's start with the team. The first draft, we have Verbruggen in goal. I feel like he should have been 5 million. I know Van Heck has left Brighton, you know, their defence is a little weaker, but their team isn't exactly getting picked apart like some other clubs in the league, and their defensive data, especially in the second half of the season, was really strong. I'm saying this off the top of my head, I'm going to do a video on it later, but across the entire season, they were top 5, top 6 for expected goals conceded, which is really good when they have a keeper costing 4.5 million. I'm shocked he's not 5 million. Every other keeper at his price is not as good as him. You know, they play for worse defences for worse teams. And a lot of keepers that cost 5 million are on the same level as Verbruggen. I feel like he's the best value keeper in the game, and my other keeper on the bench is just 4 million fodder. Spoiler alert, the entire bench is just fodder. I'm going all in on the starting 11, and it normally works for me in game week 1. Going into the back line, I'm going with a back 3. 3 expensive defenders. I'm going with Gabriel first. Now, Gabriel is 8 million. He is expensive for a defender, don't get me wrong. He got 209 points last season though. He missed 7 games, right? If he didn't miss any games that season, like most centre-backs do, they don't tend to get injured, he may have ended as the top scorer in FPL. 8 million for someone who just got 200 points is outrageous. I know there's some drawbacks, you know, some reasons as to why he may not score as high. Saliba may be out long term, which is not good for the Arsenal defence. But Mosquera will be in his place, and while Mosquera is not as good, he's still a capable defender, and that Arsenal defence will still be the best defence in the league. I am so sure of it. Their underlying data was just astronomical levels above any other team in the league last season, and I don't see that changing. And you guys don't need me to tell you this, but he's a huge goal threat from set pieces. He's very good for defcons as well. The bonus point system has changed a bit to favour centre-backs a little less than full-backs, but I'm sure it won't affect his points way too much. Now, talking of Mosquera, he is in the team. Saliba may be out for a few months, and having a starting Arsenal defender that only costs 5.5 million is an absolute bargain. He should be in many FPL teams. And if you're wondering whether I'm scared of doubling up on the Arsenal defence or not, I am not scared at all. I was doing it so much last season and it paid off all the time. The Arsenal defence, it's a defence you can play in any fixture because when they play against the best teams, they still just park the bus. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it doesn't work, but oftentimes, especially against mid-table, lower-table teams, they keep a lot of clean sheets. And Mosquera, once again, not as good as Saliba, but he's still a capable centre-back and very good value for a starting defender in the Arsenal defence. Then we finish off the back 3 with O'Reilly. He was amazing last season going forward, but Pep has left Manchester City, one of the reasons I'm not going with Haaland. Now, Man City are a well-run club. It's not going to be like when Sir Alex left Manchester United, because Man United was such a poorly run club, they had no idea what they were doing without Sir Alex. Whereas Man City, they're well run. Maresca doesn't differentiate too much from Pep. Don't get me wrong, he's not as good as Pep as a manager. I don't think any active manager is, let's be honest. But Man City won't drop off too much, I don't think, but I think they will get a little bit worse. It will be interesting to see how O'Reilly does under Maresca. If he's still playing just as far forward as he was under Pep, I'll have to keep an eye on it in pre-season, because if it looks like he's sitting back more, then he may not be worth that 6.5 million price tag. But as of right now, he is a lock in my team. And obviously, the next 2 defenders are 4 million defenders. Hopefully, I'll find out who the 4 million playing defenders are. Normally, we get a defender from each newly promoted team that costs 4 million who starts regularly. So I'll know who those guys are eventually. Right now, I don't know. The game just launched. I'll scroll on Twitter and I'll find it, I'm sure. And then I'll let you guys know. But by that point, once I found out, you guys will probably know as well. In midfield, we're not going with Haaland, which means we have Bruno Fernandes. Now, I'm not sure if this is the correct play. I feel it in my bones. That's my only source. Haaland is very scary to go without. And if worst comes to worst, I may need to use an early wildcard. Whether I use an early wildcard or not though, I'll be missing out on that triple captaincy home to Coventry in game week 3, which a lot of Haaland owners will be going for, which is very scary. Haaland also has easy fixtures, along with the rest of the Man City team obviously, but Man United, I believe, have the best opening 3 fixtures in the entire league. No one can argue with me. Away to Hull. Hull came 6th in the Championship. I don't think they're going to be Premier League ready. I think it's going to be a stomping ground. Whoever goes to Hull is going to leave with a lot of goals. But you never know. They could do really well. I just doubt it. Then it's home to Ipswich. Then away to Everton, which isn't as great. I believe Bruno, while he's not better than Haaland by any means, that 3.5 million extra is completely worth it with the team you can make. The one thing I can say about Bruno, which makes me in favour of owning him the most, is the fact under Carrick, he played 19 games, and in FPL, he got 17 assists. He didn't get 17 actual assists because, like for example, in one game week, he put a corner in and a defender scored an own goal. That doesn't count as an actual assist, but in FPL, he would still get the 3 points and maybe some bonus points along with it if it counted towards it. So yeah, that's Bruno. That's why he's in my team. We have Semenyo next to him. Semenyo is not too cheap, and he definitely doesn't cover Haaland. He's not going to score as high as Haaland. He's not here just as some insurance. He's here because Man City genuinely do have a great run of games, and Semenyo is genuinely a great player. And I'm going to need someone to captain in game week 3 because those Haaland captainers are going to pull ahead otherwise. I really need to hope Semenyo manages to keep up with Haaland. He definitely won't, but in some game weeks when Semenyo scores higher, I'll be loving it. That's if I still own him by the deadline. Obviously, there's a lot of good wingers at Man City. If Maresca decides that Semenyo is not the guy that's going to be starting every game, then I'm going to have to get rid of him. I'd be very surprised because Semenyo last season was amazing, but anything can happen with a new manager. And, you know, when you drop off on form a little bit and there's lots of competition in the team, you could lose your starting spot. But I expect Man City to start their season with Semenyo as a starting winger, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not the manager. I don't know for sure. Next up, we have doubled up on the Manchester United attack. We have Mbeumo here as well at 8 million. I think it's a fairly fair price. He, towards the end of the season, was very bad at finishing, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a Man United fan. I was watching the games, and Mbeumo was letting the team down. He still had some good scores in there, and his rotation risk issues aren't so bad. There was a small period last season, towards the later end of things, where he was losing minutes because he wasn't playing great. But if you look across the whole season, Mbeumo was the guy starting on the right wing most of the time, and I expect that to be the case, at least at the beginning of the season. If Mbeumo plays the first few games and doesn't play well, we could see Ahmad go there, maybe even Marcus Rashford because Rashford is back. But in the beginning, I think he'll have reliable minutes, which is why he's here, taking advantage of away to Hull and home to Ipswich. My idea with this team is to create a team that doesn't really need to have any transfers made for the first 3 weeks. Then in game week 4, when players are on bad form, I need to change anything. That's when I can make my moves. So I'm not going to be tied into a double Man United attack if they end up performing badly. But if they do perform badly, away to Hull and home to Ipswich, I'm going to be in big trouble. So hopefully these guys can pull through for me. After him, we have Szoboszlai, who I wasn't a big fan of last season, but I think I was in the wrong. Because Szoboszlai takes set pieces. I'm not sure if he's going to be on penalties. I feel like it would belong to Isak, but I don't know. I'm not involved in the club. Someone can leave a comment if you're a Liverpool fan. Take a guess at who's going to take penalties over Isak and Szoboszlai. Either way, he's on corners, free kicks. He's good for the defcons, and he does get involved in the open play attacks. He's a bit of an everything man, sort of like Bruno, but just to a smaller extent. And I believe 7.5 million is quite cheap for him. I've got no money left in the bank with this draft. I'm surprised I can afford Szoboszlai. At 7.5 mil, I think it's a steal. There were other players who cost a similar price, like Rodgers, who were also 7.5 million, as well as Pedro, who's a forward, not a midfielder. But there's some attackers out there who are really good value, and I'm not sure why FPL has done it. Maybe to entice people into going with a Haaland team. Coming in as the 5th midfielder in a 3-5-2 is Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. At 6.5 million, I feel like this is a fair price. You can look at other Everton midfielders like Ndai at 6 million. He's on penalties, but he was quite poor in the second half of the season. He started off last season quite well. I had him in my team. I remember he was good at getting points for me, but he definitely dropped off as the season went on, whereas Dewsbury-Hall was the opposite. And I'm not picking Dewsbury-Hall because I believe he's some hidden gem, to be honest. I was looking at 6.5 million midfielders with a good fixture on. I saw Dewsbury-Hall and Harry Wilson. The reason I'm not going with Harry Wilson is because he's gone to Leeds now. And while Leeds are better at attacking than Fulham based on last season and the underlying data, when he goes to a new team, I don't know how the structure is going to be, you know. I believe he will start, but I'll need to see some good things in pre-season if I'm going to pick him over Dewsbury-Hall, because with Dewsbury-Hall it's safer. you know you're getting a player who can play well in this Everton team and he's got a decent run of games. And whereas Wilson also has a decent run of games, he may drop off a bit. He was very good for the assist, but sometimes he would get big chances and just squander them, which is not what you want in an FPL asset. So for now, I'm leaning towards Dewsbury Hall, but Wilson is also a very good option I could consider. When looking at a cheap midfielder, pre-season will decide where I go, because looking at a player that's on form in pre-season, while it's not the best indicator, it's still a good indicator, something you will take into consideration. Yeah, take into consideration. Even though sometimes you shouldn't, because if you're playing against teams like Swindon Town and you score a brace, well, it doesn't exactly make you Ronaldo, but let's say 1 week before the season starts, a player you're considering scores 3 goals in a preseason game, it's going to make them a lot more enticing. On to the front two now, guys. I don't want you to flame me for this, but I believe Isak is a good pick. He's quite a lot of money, 9.5 million, but there's no forwards at Liverpool right now. Ekatike has a very long-term injury. Jayden Danns probably won't start over Isak, and I do believe Isak will be on the penalties, but once again, I don't know that for sure. He had a bad season last season, and Gakpo can also play centre forward for Liverpool. I very much doubt he will, because before this season of Isak, he had like 8 starts. You can't really call it a bad season, more just a season where he didn't play much. The 2 seasons prior, he scored more than 20 goals in both those seasons playing for Newcastle, and he got a decent amount of assists. I believe Iriola will understand that Isak is the better forward at Liverpool, out of him and Gakpo. So I believe he will start regularly up front. I don't know this for sure though, once again. If Liverpool bring in a new striker, which I doubt, Isak's minutes will be a threat, and I may not want to pick him because a rotation risk at 9.5 million just is not worth it. But as of right now, after Liverpool play away to Newcastle, they have a few good games. And even away to Newcastle isn't as hard as it used to be. So I kind of believe Isak is like a hidden gem right now. Even though Liverpool didn't have the best season last season, they're a good club, they're well run, they know what they're doing, they've appointed a good manager, and Isak fully fit could be a huge force to be reckoned with. I don't usually like Liverpool players as a Man United fan, but Isak carried me a few FPL seasons ago. I remember a game week where everyone sold him. I think it was 2 FPL seasons ago. Everyone sold him. He was like on the FPL app. It showed 50% chance of playing. And I thought, well, there's no other forward I want. I'd rather just keep him for this game week. And if he blanks and misses it because he's injured, he'll be back for the next one. It was against Liverpool, actually, home to Liverpool. Everyone sold him, or not many people owned him, and he scored 16, 17 points. I was over the moon. So for that, Isak is in my Hall of Fame. And even though I don't like Liverpool, I kind of like Isak. And finishing off the team, we have Thiago. He needs no introduction. He scored 22 goals last season playing for Brentford. And Brentford are one of the few, upper mid-table teams that aren't being picked apart by the big 6. I can't think of anyone big they've necessarily lost. In fact, I feel like they've strengthened with their squad depth more, which surprises me. Normally when a team like Brentford has a good season, a lot of their players get picked apart. Like we've seen it happen to Brighton before, we've seen it happen to Bournemouth, but it's not happening to Brentford just yet. I don't want to jinx them. So Brentford and Thiago look like they could maintain their form from last season, if not, maybe become even stronger. Obviously, they have European football. There could be more rotation risk in there. Thiago played the full 90 like every single game last season, so I don't think there's too much rotation risk for him there. Thiago, as long as he's not playing on TV, he's playing at 3 PM and no one's watching, he will do just fine, because I'm sure many of you have never seen a Thiago goal. I only saw 2 Thiago goals on a dodgy stream because I wanted to watch the United game. Right, this guy only scores in the 3 PM blackouts. Anyway, guys, that's my team. Definitely a bit differential. That's normally how I am. Last season, I remember everyone had Salah. I had Haaland at the beginning of the season, and I pulled ahead so much because of it. I also owned Semenyo for his 15-pointer against Liverpool in Game Week 1, so my Game Week 1 squads are quite good. Normally, I do quite well with the differentials. I don't want to jinx myself. It could go all wrong this season. Hopefully not. Anyway, let's talk a bit about Erling Haaland. I'm not going to talk too long here. I've just got a list of pros and cons and my conclusion. First off, he is ridiculously expensive. I mentioned it already. He costs a lot of money. The rest of your team won't be as good. He also loses value in your team every time he's not your captain. Now, let me explain that just a little bit. Players that cost a lot of money, premiums, usually anyone over 10 million, in terms of points they get per million they cost, are always quite bad. They never, do well in that ratio. It's always them mid-price mids that do well, them ones that have breakout seasons like Palmer a couple of years ago, or Bruno Guimaraes last season wasn't so bad. The reason these players cost so much is because of the value they bring when you captain them. When Haaland is not your captain, even if he gets a brace and scores 13 points, he's losing value in your team because the points per million just aren't worth it. So you need to think about that. If you're not going to captain him nearly every game week, he's not worth the money. Another thing, Pep Guardiola has left. And like I said earlier, Man City are a well-run club. They might not get hurt too much by this, but Pep is a great manager. There's no doubt Maresca is a downgrade. No matter what you think of the guy, he is a downgrade, and this could leave Man City and Erling Haaland worse off. Pep's tactics mainly revolved around Haaland being the goal scorer. Maresca, he might see things a little differently. And you also can't own Bruno. With that being said, all the drafts I've seen, which surprises me, have both Haaland and Bruno. I don't mind these drafts, they look okay, and it could be the right choice, but I disagree. A lot of the teams I'm seeing have good cheap players, but you can't afford like the mid to upper tier price players. Like a lot of players priced between 7.5 and 9.5 million. They look really good this season, and you're just going to have to ignore them because you want Haaland and Bruno. And I already talked about how much I, value Gabriel as an asset at only 8 million. It's going to be hard to get him in as well. That's why I don't think you should have Haaland and Bruno. Once again, I may be proved wrong. In the intro, it says I'm not an expert, it's just my opinion. So please take it with a pinch of salt. Reasons for Haaland though, and I did something on this last season in pre-season, it ended up coming true. His opening 6 game weeks are sensational. More than 10 points per game in 3 out of his 4 seasons of him being in the Premier League. The only time he didn't average 10 points per game and get at least 60 points in the opening game weeks, he got 51 points. Not far off, guys. He's a beast. And I have no doubt he will outscore Bruno in the first 6 game weeks. I'm hoping my team that I build around Bruno is enough to make that ground back up and even pull ahead. So yeah, in conclusion, like I say, probably the right choice. He looks good to own. He's consistent, low risk. But as of right now, when I'm recording, when I made this team, I don't think Haaland is essential, and I don't think he's the right player to bring in my team. I want you guys to let me know in the comments what you think, because everybody's got their own opinion, and any strategy could work. Haaland teams could do well, Bruno teams could do well, and teams consisting of both could also do really well. Anyway, guys, that is it from me. Once again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. It's good to be back, and I will see you all in the next video.